You are listening to Brayford Radio. This recording was originally broadcast on the 19th of May 2016. For copyright reasons, this audio has been edited to remove any music being played during the show. We hope you enjoy the recording of Formula Tom, with me Tom Cairns and Martin Bulbrook. Good evening and welcome to Formula Tom on Brayford Radio. Joining me tonight is Martin Bulbrook, and we'll be discussing our review on the Spanish Grand Prix that took place last weekend. Good evening, Martin.
Good evening.
Thank you. And you guys can be involved in the conversation via Twitter, or if you want to send us any messages, posts via the Facebook page of Formula Tom, that's an option as well. Tweet us in by at Brayford Radio on Twitter, and we'll share them over the next hour. Before we talk about the guy who now becomes Formula One's youngest ever Formula One race winner, we have to go straight to Mercedes, don't we, Jack? Martin, sorry.
Yes, we do. Obviously, very big focal point of the weekend. The first thing to happen really during the race. Everyone was talking about it really.
And what do you think made the what really made the crash really? Because there's been a lot of arguments saying, it's Hamilton's fault, or it's Rosberg's fault, or something mechanical took over. But how did you see it from your view during that present moment?
When I first saw the accident, I thought it was Rosberg's fault. He was obviously much slower than Hamilton coming out of turn 3. Hamilton, to me, looked like he had the line and Rosberg just shut it out, and obviously Hamilton, instead of running to the back of him, tried to escape the crash. But once you get on that grass, you're not going to control it.
No, you're not finding any grip once you're on the grass there really. But did you think it was bound to happen though, when those Mercedes drivers were going to be coming together, if not the last race?
I think it was due to happen. It's been a long time since they have done, and they both want to be number one, so they want to race each other. And when two drivers are going to race each other, they are going to collide, unfortunately.
Well, you're not going to take that away from Max Verstappen, because first race for Red Bull, nobody would have expected him to qualify so high and be at the finish at the front. It's astonishing really for the 18-year-old.
Yeah, it's an incredible race for him really. Obviously the Mercedes crashing out certainly did help him, but even without that, I think he could have probably got third, because I still think the Mercedes are the fastest cars. But even then, I still would have put him third. So him finishing first is exactly how I thought his race was going to go this weekend.
Yeah, and Max Verstappen made history on Sunday by becoming the youngest ever driver to win a Formula 1 race. 18 years and 227 days. Very, very remarkable. I could just go you through the results from Barcelona. Max Verstappen takes his maiden Formula 1 win in his 24th start with the 25 points. Kimi Raikkonen very, very close behind him. He's got 6/10 behind him at the line, and it's Sebastian Vettel a further 5 seconds behind him. So both Ferraris finishing on the podium for the first time this year. Then Ricciardo finishing 4th for the 4th time in 2016, despite having that puncher in the closing stages. Then close behind him was the Williams of Valtteri Bottas. Carlos Sainz, the Spanish hometown hero, finishing in 6th place for Toro Rosso. Fantastic result. Perez finishing 7th for Force India. Then it's Massa, Button collecting 2 points from the McLaren team, and Kvyat in his first race back at Toro Rosso taking the final point in 10th. Looking at those results, Carlos Sainz, home Grand Prix, he's got to be very, very satisfied with that, hasn't he?
Yeah, he had an incredible race. I thought he drove very well all afternoon, and he deserved to finish 6th, if not higher, above Bottas. I thought them two were both on par, but I'd say Sainz, home Grand Prix, I'm surprised he didn't finish above Bottas in the end.
Well, do you think, Valtteri Bottas, we know we've been talking a little bit more about Williams, but for Carlos Sainz to finish out of one Williams driver, that's got to be some achievement, really.
Yeah, certainly. Obviously, the Williams car is good this season. It's not top, but it's still good.
As good as it was last year.
Yeah, as good as it was last year. Certainly, I'd probably say it's still better than the Toro Rosso car. So for him to finish above a Williams in the Toro Rosso is an incredible achievement. And
just go through the other finishers. Esteban Gutierrez finishing 11th, his highest finishing position in the Haas so far this season, but yet still to score a point. Then it's Marcus Ericsson in 12th, Jolyon Palmer 13th, Nasser 14th in the second Sauber. Then Magnussen, despite getting a 10-second penalty in the closing stages for causing a collision, he finished 15th. Then it's Pascal Wehrlein 16th, Rio Haryanto for the last finisher in 17th. Then we got our retirees of Grosjean, Alonso, Hulkenberg, and most famously Hamilton and Rosberg, who crashed at turn 4 on the opening lap, with Danny Kvyat setting the fastest lap of the race in his first race back at Toro Rosso. Looking at the other finishes, I mean, how significant is it going to be for those? Maybe not necessarily like in the points, but those like Gutierrez, because he nearly scored points in the end until he had to make a late pit stop.
Yeah, obviously Haas, new team, they want to get that point. Gutierrez was so close. Unfortunately, he had to make the late pit stop, as you said, but he was so close this weekend. They're improving every week, and I think some point in this race calendar we could see him get maybe a point or two.
Well, with Monaco coming up this weekend, now that Sauber, they got both cars to the finish, but what is it that's missing from them? Is it traction? Is it downforce? Is it engine performance? What is it that's missing for Sauber?
I think it's the engine performance personally. I just don't think the car's got the go in it to keep up with the other cars on the home straights and stuff, and they're just not they're just not getting the speed out of the corners, and they're just looking sluggish as a car.
Well, with all these results, with probably the most unusual results of the season so far, how does that affect the driver standings? Well, for the first time this year, Nico Rosberg has not won, but he remains top on 100 points, and it's Kimi Raikkonen moves into second place now in the championship. He's on 61, 4 points ahead of Lewis Hamilton on 57, and it's Vettel on 48 along with Ricciardo, who's also on 48, but Vettel has got higher positions. More higher positions than Ricciardo has. Then it's Max Verstappen after his first race as Red Bull. He's now on 38 points, including the points he's already got from Toro Rosso. Then it's Massa with 36, Bottas with 29, and Kvyat and Grosjean with both with 22, making up the top 10. Raikkonen, he's having a fantastic season, hasn't he? With the podiums he's been getting more than he did last year, because from 19 races last year, he only got 3 podium finishes. 5 races in, he's got 3 podium finishes this year.
Yeah, he's having an incredible season. Obviously, again, Ferrari got the same scenario as Mercedes. Both drivers want to be the top driver, and this season Raikkonen's just outperforming Vettel and is having a great season.
And what about now that Verstappen's in that race seat? Now he's very, very much boosted his points tally. 62 points behind Rosberg. I think that's going to be a huge ask for Verstappen to catch Rosberg. But do you think anything can happen in Monaco though? Because we know we've seen some results over the years in Monaco, but do you see Verstappen coming anywhere near Mercedes drivers in future races?
In future races, yes, but I think the biggest problem still at the minute is the performance of the cars. I still think the Mercedes cars are by far more superior to any other car on that field at the minute. And
with the Massa and Bottas, they're 7th and 8th at the moment, respectively. But do you think there's some way off Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes? Because they seem to be in the sort of lower end of the points, from where they wanted to be. Because, 2 years ago, they were, with the straight line speed that they had, like the Mercedes did, they were genuinely quick. But now they just seem to be, prepared to accept what's most realistic for them, would you say?
Yeah, I'd certainly say they're probably the 4th strongest car behind, obviously, the Red Bull, Ferrari and Mercedes. I think the thing Williams have recognised are they're not great anymore at anything, they're just good at it all, which gives them a very consistent race.
Oh, fantastic. And just go through the remaining drivers in the standings. Carlos Sainz is now on 12 points in 11th. Then it's Fernando Alonso, he's on 8 in 12th. Then it's Perez with 8 as well. Magnussen and Hulkenberg with 6. Button's now on 3 ahead of Van Dorn, still on 1 despite only competing in 1 race this season. Then it's Palmer, Gutierrez, Ericsson, Verline, Nasser and Haryanto, who have yet to score a point this season. For the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes, despite not scoring, they remain on 157 points, but their gap over Ferrari has been slashed now to 48 points. Ferrari are on 109. Then it's Red Bull with 94, then Williams with 65, Toro Rosso with 26 in 5th, ahead of Haas, who dropped down to 6th, they're on 22. Force India are on 14, back ahead of McLaren, who are on 12 in 8th. And it's Renault in 9th with 6th, and Sauber and Manor still yet to score a point so far this season. I've just almost forgotten, actually, the driver of the day. Who do you think that's gone to?
obviously Max Verstappen, for what he done, was fantastic, but I actually really thought Carlos Sainz had a really good race.
You should have gone with your first instinct. It is Max Verstappen who got the Driver of the Day award. And who do you think got the fastest DHL fastest pit stop award for Spain?
Possibly Williams. Has Williams been pretty fast?
Absolutely correct. Yeah, Williams have made it 5 wins out of 5 on the pit stops so far this season. The most to clock a time of 2.12 seconds. During the race. Very, very well done for Williams. And if you guys got any thoughts from the race from Barcelona, and do please let us know, tweeting him at Brayford Radio, or sending us any messages or posts to the Facebook page of Formula Tom, and we'll read out your thoughts later on. But now that here's your first question of the evening. When was the last time that neither Mercedes finished a Grand Prix? I'll repeat the question again. When was the last time that neither Mercedes finished a Grand Prix? The answer will be given to you later on after our chosen Spanish artist, that is Enrique Iglesias with Hero. This is Tom Kent on Formula Tom. You are listening to Brayford Radio. And that was Hero by Enrique Iglesias. Fantastic tune. The question we asked, I know some of you have been answering and saying last Sunday to this question, which was actually the purpose of why I asked this question. When was the last time that neither Mercedes finished a Grand Prix? Any suggestions, Martin?
Well, obviously last Saturday, but
Sunday.
But before that, I'd say the Belgium 2014 Grand Prix.
Nearly, but I can tell you the answer is Australia 2011. Schumacher and Rosberg both retired during that race. So if you got that right, very, very well done. I should credit you for that. I've just got a posting from Angela Kenzo saying, do you think that the Renault engine upgrade will have any impact on the up and coming race in Monaco?
I personally think it has to. The Renaults didn't have a great start to the season. They're starting to pick up a few points, but still not very many. I think the engine upgrade is what they need, and I think they've obviously tested it, and I think it's got to improve the car and get more speed.
I mean, for the Renault engine performance, I mean, Renault, since the V6 era began, they've been put into questions, and are they going to supply any more engines with the way that the engine is performing, because there's no point making the engines if the engines are performing so badly all the time. So, but the Renault engines is getting there, but it's not quite at the peak where it needs to be at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, it's not as good as like the Ferrari engines on the field at the minute, and maybe the upgrade will. I don't think it'll make it better than the Ferrari engines, but I think it will certainly bring them up the field, hopefully.
And let's move on to our talking point. The most successful team in Formula 1 over the past 2 years, Mercedes. Obviously, they're into question about the incident between Hamilton and Rosberg on lap 1. But what was your view on it?
As I said, obviously the stewards have released their statements, what they feel. But I still personally feel like Rosberg's still to blame. He was in the wrong setting coming off the corner. He knew he was slow off the corner, and I just don't understand why he didn't expect a dive down from Hamilton, because he knew he was so slow off the corner.
The stewards came out with a statement. This is what the stewards had to say. The incident concern started when car 6, that's Nico Rosberg, dropped into an incorrect power mode as set by the driver prior to the start. This created a significant power differential between car 6 and car 44, that's Lewis Hamilton, at the exit of turn 3 coming onto the straight, resulting in as much as a 17 km/h speed difference between the two cars on the straight. Car 6 moved to the right to defend his position, as it is right under Article 27.7. Article 27.7 requires the leading driver to leave of the sporting regulations. Simultaneously, car 44, as the significantly faster car with, at the time, apparent space on the inside, moved to make the pass. Article 27.7 requires the leading driver to leave room. If there is a significant portion of the car attempted to pass alongside, car 44 had a portion of his front wing inside car 6, small fractions of a second prior to car 44 having to leave the right side of the track to avoid an initial collision, which may have led him to believe they had the right to space on the right. Once on the grass on the side of the track, car 44 was no longer in control of the situation. Well, that's pretty much self-explanatory, really, isn't it? Watching that of the analysis that Anthony Davidson did, do you believe now that as it's all become apparent as to why Nico Rosberg was doing what he was doing?
I certainly think it has become much more apparent since the analysis. Obviously, in the analysis, it also showed, because the rules clearly state if the front wing is behind the rear tyres, that they shouldn't pull over. But in the analysis, I saw it is literally fractions of a second, and then he'd pulled over and Hamilton went off the track. So it was only at the very end, before then, that his actual front wing was in line with Rosberg's rear tyres. So yeah, I personally, now after seeing all the analysis, I personally do think it was just a racing collision. I just apologise, by the way. We had somebody just open the doors, and I don't know why, but we did put a sign saying we're live on air, so I don't know why the guy opened the door then. So just apologies for the interruption that we had. Just continuing on with the steward's statement, having heard extensively from both drivers and from the team, the stewards determined that car 6 had the right to make the manoeuvre that he did, and that car 44's attempt to overtake was reasonable, and that the convergence of events led neither driver to be wholly or predominantly at fault, and therefore take no further action. So, maybe at the time when they had the crash, you would maybe blame it on Rosberg, but after looking back more, does that make you believe it was more of a racing incident? Yeah, I certainly believe it is a racing incident now, and I think it's certainly fair what the stewards have done, and they're not penalising either of the two drivers. What could have possibly have happened? What if one of them got a penalty point? A penalty. Either points on the licence that they have, where if normally it's something like 3 points depending on the offence, but if you get 12 points, you get a race ban. But what do you think could have happened if either of them got a penalty or points? I think obviously the atmosphere in the garage after it would obviously be very hot and very heated, because both drivers would have probably viewed it as being the other one's fault at the time. So I think not penalising them both is a smart move, because if one had been penalised and the other one hadn't, I think that then built up tension in the garage still, even though they discussed it, because I think they discussed it and agreed with each other there is a racing collision. So if it went to the stewards and the stewards then penalised one of them, I think there could have been
very controversial then, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I think there'd been a lot of tension in the garage.
Do you see an incident like this happening again later in the season?
I can't see it happening later in the season. In years to come, yeah, because they both want to be number one and they both want to race for that first place. But for it to happen twice in a season, I can't really see it happening.
If you have any thoughts on Mercedes or anything that we've been discussing so far, then do please tweet in at Brayford Radio or send us a message or post via the Facebook page of Formula Tom. For now though, here's your second question tonight, which is: how many different drivers in the last 10 races in Barcelona have won, and can you name all of them? The answer will be given after the Sepher song by Red Hot Chili Peppers. This is Tom Kent on Formula Tom. You are listening to Brayford Radio. And that was the Sepher song by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Fantastic, fantastic tune. The question we asked was, how many drivers in the last 10 races in Barcelona have won? Can you name all of them? Did you go for an answer, Martin?
So I went for, obviously, Verstappen won this year's. Mm-hmm. I believe Vettel has won it twice. I think Hamilton's won it twice. Schumacher, Alonso, and that's all, I think.
So how many is that? Is that 5?
Yeah.
Okay. I can tell you the answer is 10. So 10 in the last 10 races in Barcelona, 10 drivers have won. I'll do it in reverse chronological order. Obviously, we've had Max Verstappen, 2016, 2015, Nico Rosberg, 2014, Lewis Hamilton, 2013, Fernando Alonso, 2012, Pastor Maldonado, 2011, Sebastian Vettel, 2010, Mark Webber, 2009, Jenson Button, 2008, Kimi Raikkonen, and 2007, Felipe Massa. So if you've got all those correct, very well done, indeed. That's what Richard Osman would say on his show of Pointless. So it's that time on the show, Martin. It is time for exactly that. So how did we do?
I actually had a really good week. My predictions weren't that great, but I don't think anyone got that great of predictions. As for the obvious big crash at the start, they'd probably both been in everyone's top 3, but obviously they didn't finish there. So the only 2 actual predictions I got correct this week was having 1 safety car and Lewis Hamilton being on pole position.
Right, in my predictions, I managed to not do very, very well at all. In fact, I got no predictions right whatsoever, so that's been my worst weekend so far in terms of predictions, because I predicted Rosberg to win, Vettel 2nd, Hamilton 3rd. It didn't happen. Vettel finished 3rd, both Mercedes crashed out. I think I put Jolyon Palmer as the first retiree, but it proved to be Rosberg, because I do remember what Jack's saying like 2 weeks ago. He said he was going to put Hamilton as the first retiree, which it wouldn't have happened anyway, because they were the only 2 drivers that retired on the first lap, but Rosberg started behind Hamilton, so Rosberg would be classed as the first retiree. The fastest lap I went for Max Verstappen, which didn't happen. It proved to be Kvyat. Safety cars, I went for no safety cars, but we had 1, and I think that's it, isn't it? Pole position, pole position, I went for Nico Rosberg, but that was Lewis Hamilton. There we go. So how does that affect the results in Spain? Well, we'll do it in reverse order. So Delta F1 with 51 points, Cairns Racing 63, Max Mercedes GP was 5th with 65, Team Jedi was 71, Honey Badger GP 85, Rebel Dog GP 109, and Team Martin 127. So very well done, Martin, for being the best of the 7. Magnificent 7 from Spain. So in effect of the championship in our league, it's Honey Badger GP, 3 races in for him. He's now on 409, 92 points behind Team Jedi with 501. It's Rebel Dog GP with 535, Ken's Racing in 4th with 543, Delta F1 in 3rd with 551. Team Martin now back up to 2nd with 676 points behind Mark's Mercedes GP with 676. So you're closing down on it now, aren't you?
Yeah, I think it's my pit wall, because I have both the Red Bull and Ferrari on my pit wall, which obviously they made up the top 4, got me loads of points. So hopefully they can keep doing that, and I'll keep making up the points.
Can you just remind everyone there what you've got on your pit wall?
Yeah, so my pit wall for the 3 drivers, I have Nico Rosberg, Kimi Raikkonen and Romain Grosjean. And then the 3 cars, I have the Ferrari, the Red Bull and the Haas.
Myself, I've got Verstappen. I had him when he was at Toro Rosso, but when he moved to Red Bull, it felt like it was a free change. So I was very, very privileged to see him do well. He was my saving grace, really, for Spain, because otherwise my points would have been so bad. I mean, I was very, very lucky for Verstappen to win. I've also got Hamilton as one of my drivers, as well as Grosjean. And the cars I've got are Toro Rosso, Haas and Mercedes. But Mercedes retired, both Mercedes retired, neither Haas finished in the points. Toro Rosso, both drivers finished in the points, but big deal, I didn't finish as high as you did, so I need to redeem myself for Monaco. So we'll have to see. What are you thinking about Monaco? Are you prepared to give any early predictions for that event?
Yeah, so I've had a quick think about Monaco. Obviously we've got the new tyres coming in, so we could see faster speed from the ultra softs, from the ultra soft tyres. So I think Mercedes will lock out the front row again, and I think Hamilton might get pole position again. And then for the actual race, I think it'll be Hamilton, Rosberg, Verstappen.
For my predictions, I did my predictions the other day. I went for Rosberg to win, Raikkonen second, Verstappen third. So I'm going for another unusual result. Almost a similar one to China, but with Raikkonen and Verstappen up there. But Verstappen, we could see him right up there again. I can't wait to see how he does in Monaco. So yeah, for the other predictions, I went for 2 safety cars because of Monaco's natural scene for crashes and safety cars and that. First retiree, I went for Marcus Ericsson. Fastest lap, I went for Nico Rosberg. Pole position, Nico Rosberg. So I believe Nico Rosberg will get a hat trick for the weekend, like he did in Russia. So what did you say you went for the fastest lap again? You went for...
Fastest lap, I think, will be Ricciardo. I don't know what it is, but the Red Bulls / Toro Rossos just seem to be incredibly good at picking up the fastest lap this season.
Yeah, with other points, I think Williams may... I don't know when it'll be when Williams will get on the podium again, because I don't seem to... Because they're the only team now that have scored points in every race from each driver. So both Massa and Bottas have finished in the points every race so far. But they're not really finding the pace that's going to see them on the podium. They're still having to rely on misfortune, but in Formula 1 you can't really do that.
Yeah, I think the podium this season will pretty much be filled out with the top 3 teams, which is the Ferrari, the Mercedes and the Red Bull. So them 6 drivers, I think we'll see mainly all them 6, if not only all them 6 this season.
Just a couple of tweets from Ken's JS. He's saying that Hamilton should never have gone for that gap so early in the race. Rosberg was at fault too, very rumoured the weekend for Mercedes. And he's along with that, he said Rosberg was at fault too, but they both ruined the weekend for the Mercedes team. I think he was just correcting his ending of the first tweet they put in, but it makes perfect sense now, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. Obviously, I remember race day, Nicky Lauda. Nicky Lauda. He was obviously very upset when they interviewed him. He blamed it on Hamilton at the time. And I think a lot of people did, because it is such an aggressive move so early on. But the space was there and he had the speed. So, and I love it when people go for the risky overtakes. It makes it exciting. So I can't see why he shouldn't go for it in the first lap or the last lap, but I think they should always go for them sort of risky manoeuvres.
I mean, you've got to take risks sometimes, haven't you? I mean, as much as Hamilton and Rosberg felt that it was really embarrassing to take each other out, but they'll just think again, back to the days of Prost, Senna, even Vettel and Webber, 2 incidents, the team order scandal in Malaysia, and they're coming together in Turkey. I mean, something like that might happen, but they've already come to blows in Spa in 2014. Where on the second lap at Les Combes, Rosberg punctured Hamilton's tyre, which effectively ruined his race. So it was really sad to see. But quickly back to the Badger GP. With the way the championship stands at the moment, I mean, it's very, very much hotting up now, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. Obviously, we've had both Mercedes not finish this week, which has brought the top 4 or 5 people closer together, because you now got Raikkonen in second instead of having the 2 Mercedes 1-2. You've also got Vettel very close up there now. Verstappen, he's now on 38 points. Ricciardo is level with Vettel, I believe.
On the points. On the points. Ricciardo, yeah, 48 points each.
But obviously he just keeps finishing 4th. So
I mean, imagine he finished 4th every race until the end of the season. Where do you think he might be? It depends on where the other drivers finish, really. He's got to 4th.
Makes sense.
So he needs a variable drivers top 3, really, to have any hope of catching the championship. But do you see Ricciardo finish on the top step anytime soon? Because if you remember what Christian Horner said before the season started, he came out saying that the Red Bull will be the best performance, I should say, in the second half of the year. But they've got a race win in the bag now.
Yeah, they've got a race win in the bag. obviously Ricardo, phenomenal driver. I think it's a matter of time. We're going to see him on that top step at some point in the season, I thoroughly believe.
And well, with Raikkonen, 3 podiums for him this season. Vettel, he's got 3 podiums as well. Because in Australia he finished on the podium, Bahrain he didn't start, China he finished second, Russia he crashed out on the first lap, and he finished third in Spain. So 3 podiums each for Raikkonen and Vettel. So I think Raikkonen will break his duck again and finish second, but I think that's going to take some cutting edge to beat Nico Rosberg really. But Monaco, to get pole position in Monaco will be very, very, very important, like any other pole position.
Yeah, it is. Obviously, Monaco, not a lot of places to overtake on the track, a very tight track, loads of sharp corners, tight bends. It has it all really, and I wouldn't be surprised if Mercedes didn't perform as good, because I believe there are cars stronger on the grid from corners than there is Mercedes at the minute.
And if you want to join the Badger GP League of Formula 1, all you need to do is visit the Badger GP website, log in via your Facebook, your Twitter or your Gmail, create your pit wall, create your predictions for the upcoming race, and to join the league you're on Friends Leagues with Fantasy GP on the navigation bar at the top. Click on that, then click on Friends Leagues, then you need to click on the button that says create/join, and then you need to type in the passcode 5872114. The passcode again is 5872114. That's a 7-digit code. If you need any help to join the league, then do please message us on Formula Tom, and we'll give you as much guidance as possible. And whilst me and Martin have been discussing our predictions and thoughts for Monaco coming up, and for the results from Spain, and how the championship is standing at the moment, we would like your thoughts by sending either your messages or posts to the Facebook page of Formula Tom, or you can tweet in at Brayford Radio, and we'll share them out after Take That Said It All. This is Tom Kent on Formula Tom. You are listening to Brayford Radio. And that was Said It All by Take That. And we forgot to ask you the question again, but this is quite a hard one, this one, so it's probably best we give you a little bit more time to think about this one. The question is, other than the Kvyat Verstappen one, okay, so just to reduce some confusion of the switch that Red Bull and Toro Rosso had this year, when was the last time that 2 teams swapped drivers during a season? So not in between seasons, during the season, so mid-season, if you prefer to call it that way. So that's your question. And talking which of the drivers that they switched, and the driver that made history on Sunday, Max Verstappen. I mean, we've talked to him before the season started, but how do you compare the Max Verstappen this year to what he was last year?
He seems so much more comfortable in the car. Like last year, I thought he seemed, for his age, he was very comfortable in the car. But this season, he's making the car his own. He's owning, like on the race weekend, he fought off Raikkonen for quite a few laps. He didn't bottle it, he didn't get scared, he didn't think, oh, I've got a Ferrari right behind me, what do I do? He didn't mess up at all, he just drove his own race, stayed confident and deservedly won.
And looking at the youngest ever drivers that have won a Formula 1 race, Max Verstappen obviously is now officially the youngest ever driver to win a Formula 1 race at the age of 18 years and 232 days. That's remarkable. The next one after that is Sebastian Vettel, who was 21 years and 79 days old when he won his maiden race when he was driving for Toro Rosso in Monza in 2008. Then it's Fernando Alonso in 2003 when he won his first race was driving for Renault at the age of 22 years and 31 days. Then we had Troy Ruttman, who won the Indianapolis 500 in 1952, 22 years and 86 days. Then it's Bruce McLaren in the United States in 1959. Then Lewis Hamilton in Canada in 2007. He managed to win his first race in Formula 1 at the age of 22 years and 159 days. Then it was Kimi Raikkonen in Malaysia 2003. He took his first win at the age of 23 years and 163 days, and it's Robbie Kubica, you can't forget him, in Canada in 2008, 23 years, 189 days. Then it's Jackie Hicks in France 1968, and Michael Schumacher is the 10th highest, youngest ever driver to win a Grand Prix. He managed to win his maiden of his 91 races in Spa in 1992 at the age of 23 years and 245 days. Does that statistic surprise you a little bit?
Yeah, especially the Michael Schumacher, just for obviously the sheer amount of races he won, the dominance he had over multiple years. I personally thought he was a lot younger when he won his first race than what it was.
And the fact that he came into Formula 1 at the age of 17, which is an unbreakable record now, because the regulations say that you've got to be at least 18 to take part in Formula 1, and you need to have taken part in like a junior sort of series, like a feeder series like GP2 or GP3, and also you need to have like a super license to take part in Formula 1. But looking at the youngest ever drivers to have taken part in a Grand Prix, the top six as follows. Max Verstappen made his F1 debut last year in Australia at the age of 17, 162 days. And before him, it was Jaime Alguersuari in Hungary in 2009, driving for the same team, Toro Rosso. He competed when he was 19 years old and 125 days. It was Mike Thackwell in Canada in 1980. He managed to take part at the age of 19 years and 179 days. And it was Ricardo Rodriguez in 1961 in Italy, 19 years, 207 days. Fernando Alonso, he made his debut in F1 in 2001 with Minardi in Australia. He was 19 years and 213 days old when he made his debut. And the sixth highest, youngest ever driver to have taken part in a Formula 1 race, Esteban Tuero in Australia in 1998, whilst driving for Minardi, 19 years and 314 days old. Do you miss Jaime Alguersuari?
Yeah, he's a great driver. He was the driver of. There's a slight gap there. I'll try for the overtake because I can, basically.
Because he replaced. I remember he replaced Sebastian Bourdais, who the Toro Rosso team dropped. Jaime Alguersuari that year, it was a little bit of time for him to develop. But 2010, he only placed in the points 3 times. But in 2011, which was his last year in Formula 1. There was a lot of great results. Like, I remember that racing career in 2011 where he overtook Rosberg in the closing stages and he finished 7th.
Yeah.
Toro Rosso, that's fantastic, really, isn't it?
Yeah, he made average car, I'd say, on the track. Toro Rosso weren't the best car on there, weren't the worst car, but he was making the Toro Rosso run really strongly in the track and really picking up good positions.
Any of the other drivers on that list notable to you?
Obviously, Fernando Alonso, still about, great driver, been around for many years now. And then, obviously...
Nothing else?
Verstappen.
Verstappen, yeah.
Verstappen at 17. At 17 years, it's phenomenal. Like, that's the youngest you can pass your driving test, so... to then drive an F1 car is incredible.
I do remember Esteban Tuero. When I was very, very young, the first Formula 1 game I played was F1 World Grand Prix on the Sega Dreamcast, and I do remember he was on the list, the driver list, because it was in 1998. Yeah. He was on the list, driving for Minardi, because he had Shinji Nakano as his teammate. So that's the sort of influence that I remember Esteban Tuero during my days. If Max Verstappen was to be the youngest ever world champion, okay, the current record stands at 23 years, 133 days, set by Sebastian Vettel in 2010. Well, he's 18, so he's got time to do it.
Yeah, he's got time to do it. He seems to like breaking records. Obviously, he's broken 2 already now, so why not go for a hat-trick?
Seems a bit of a dream. Do you think he can do it this year, or do you think next year is the biggest?
I think this year is Rosberg's to lose still. Obviously, his start to the season, 4 wins out of 4, fantastic. I think is still firmly in Rosberg's hands at the minute. Unless he starts to slip up more and more, I can't see Rosberg letting it slip. But maybe come next year, you never know, Verstappen could be unstoppable.
And just looking at Robert Kubica as well, with his rally accident that he had in early 2011 whilst he was with the Renault team, I mean, that put paid to his career effectively in Formula 1. I mean, he might be in like rallying right now, but he's not. Do you see him back in Formula 1 anytime soon, or do you think that's it?
I think that's it, because if I remember rightly, he severely severed his wrist or something.
Something like that, yeah.
And so obviously that's your hands play a massive part in driving, and I personally can't see him coming back in an F1 car after an injury like that and stuff.
And looking at the other the youngest ever world champions, Sebastian Vettel broke Hamilton's record of being the youngest ever world champion by 168 days. So had he not won the championship that year, Hamilton would still have the record. And then it was Fernando Alonso. Before Hamilton, Fernando Alonso won his first world championship at the age of 24 years and 58 days with the Renault F1 team in 2005 in Brazil. And he also became the youngest ever back-to-back world champion that year until Sebastian Vettel took that way. But there's been 10 back-to-back world champions in Formula One, including Alonso, Vettel, and Hamilton. Then we've got Emerson Fittipaldi, who's the fourth current youngest ever driver, aged 25 years and 273 days, when he became world champion in 1972. I mean, do you remember him?
No, it's a bit before my time.
Yeah, it's before your time. Maybe your dad. I'm sure your dad will remember him, won't he?
Yeah, probably. I don't know. He'd been 6 at the time, so I don't know how early he got into F1, but maybe.
I mean, when I started getting very, very much into Formula 1 when I was 8 years old. So just before my 9th birthday, like a few months before my 9th birthday, I got into Formula 1 very, very much when I was 8 years of age. So your dad might be into Formula 1 a lot around that time, you know.
Yeah, they probably spoke about him a lot around the sort of time Dad was getting into it anyway, so he probably knows of him. Like, he might not have seen him drive, but he probably knows of him.
And unfortunately, that is the end of the show. Thank you for listening and sending in your tweets and answers tonight. We're back on air again next week, where we'll be previewing the next race at the glamorous Monte Carlo circuit in Monaco. From me and Martin, have a good weekend, and we'll talk to you again next week. This is Tom Kent on Formula Tom. You are listening to Brayford Radio. We'd like to announce the answer to the last question that was not confirmed during the show. The question was, when was the last time 2 teams swapped drivers during an F1 season? The answer was in 1994, where the Lotus of Johnny Herbert and the Ligier of Eric Bernard swapped seats for the 14th race of the season at the European Grand Prix in Jerez.